Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Talking Freight, the weekly series by Cerasis, a North American third-party logistics company who helps shippers manage transportation through technology and services. If you've been watching for the last few weeks, we've been covering all things less-than-truckload shipping. Our goal is to make sure that shippers are armed with some information that will allow them to be more efficient in shipping via less-than-truckload, but also in helping you to reduce costs. We're going to do this through education. We've done it in our blog, and we've done it for our customers here at Cerasis. So today we're going to talk about some other things, some soft cost factors that go into LTL shipping. We've already talked about what goes into making up an LTL rate, and make sure you do watch that video on our YouTube channel. In fact, I'll use an easy to click link where you can find in the description so you can go ahead and view that. So let's get right into today's subject, the factors to consider in LTL pricing. Again, this is a little bit different than just the LTL rate itself, and these are some factors that you might need to consider. The first one is pricing models. Now, William Cassidy of the Journal of Commerce covered a few years ago the potential move of LTL carriers to go from classification-based rating to dimensional-based rating. Now, this hasn't really shown in full effect in LTL quite yet. It's pretty prolific in parcel shipping, but you do need to understand that in the terminals of some of these carriers, like the one we visited at our carrier partner Old Dominion, they are already using technology made by a company called Cubiscan, where they are getting the dimensions of your pallet and of different freight. So it might behoove you to start looking at how pricing models, such as the move to dimensional, will impact LTL carrier rates in the future and now. If you're not familiar with this technology, I really encourage you to work with your carrier partners and ask them to give you a terminal tour and ask them if they have some of these devices so you can take a look at what they do. The next factor, as always, and this is something that shippers are going to need to pay attention to, and again, something we've covered here on Talking Freight in a previous episode, is LTL capacity, sometimes known as a capacity crunch. Now, for the last few years, because inventories have really historically been high, we haven't really seen much of a capacity crunch, but the economy is on the rise and LTL rates are on the rise, and driver shortage is currently happening. So capacity could come into an issue here late in 2017 and early 2018. And when there's hard to find capacity, it can increase your time spent in finding a great carrier. It also could increase rates. Another thing and another factor is that every single customer wants their stuff now. With the rise of two-day shipping and expectations of shoppers in their personal lives, even the B2B and industrial customers and who you're sending freight to are wanting to get their stuff quicker and quicker. So a great way to do that is through less-than-truckload shipping. Now, with truckload shipping, what happens if you go that route is that you put your freight in a full truckload, then it's got to be broken down and maybe taken to different areas and different customers in that area. So less than truckload shipping can be a cheaper option as you look at all of your options when figuring out the price that you want to ship. So consider that maybe as LTL shipping is a faster way, but don't be afraid to also look at truckload and compare the time. In the end, you may need to increase your original rate by adding an accessorial known as a guarantee. And that guarantee will make sure it gets to your customer when they need it. It will cost a little more. Another factor that's really shaping the LTL industry is since there is a driver shortage and drivers are now getting a little more used to being at home, working flexible schedules, and we're factoring in things like hours of service, what we're seeing is an increase by carriers looking to recruit drivers a little bit better, and those are higher operational costs, and so those will transfer down to you as a shipper. So you need to consider those things and maybe encourage some of your friends to go into trucking to help you get a lower price. The next one is the Amazon standard. Now, Amazon is really changing the game of logistics. Expectations are changing. Shipping just seems seamless. They're really dominating the supply chain. And therefore, expectations of efficiency, communication, even e-commerce is going to come into play with you as an LTL shipper. Maybe you need to reach a new market and make it easier for your frequent customers to purchase from you online through e-commerce. Now, you're not just beholden to the old e-commerce cart that says call us to arrange for shipping. You can use technology such as e-commerce modules within your transportation management system like we have here at Cerasis in our Cerasis Rater that will allow you to have a seamless experience for your customer and for you to manage everything on the back end in an e-commerce setting. So Amazon doesn't have to get you down. You can compete with the right technology. You just need to consider all of that when it comes to your LTL pricing. And then finally, lower risk. Now, different modes of shipping just have different amounts of risk. Just think of ocean shipping. Well, there's a lot of risk there. You have a boat that goes out into the ocean and it could crash, or it just takes a lot of time, and there's just a few more variables that you can't control as much. With truckload, you have a whole sealed truck that, if something happens, it could mean tens of thousands of freight damage. With less-than-truckload shipping, it's often one of the least risky modes of shipping. Therefore, insurance can cost less as well. So if you can ship LTL, then maybe consider that because it does have a lower risk factor than some other modes. So when it comes to LTL, obviously you're going to get a rate. We're all in the pursuit of the cheapest rate. But if we don't think of all the potential costs that happen beyond the rate or that can impact your overall shipping costs, then you may not be looking at a full picture that shapes a realistic budget. So if you're looking for some help and some guidance, you may want to turn to a 3PL like Cerasis who can kind of consider these things for you, put together a full strategy, and make you feel confident that you're not spending more than you have to, but you're also meeting your service levels that you want to see in both inbound and outbound shipping. So thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Talking Freight. If you want to read more about factors beyond the freight rate to read an LTL, make sure you check out the description for that link to that blog post on the Cerasis blog. Also, hit the subscribe button and that little bell so you get notified of each episode of Talking Freight that comes out every Friday. Thanks for joining us. We hope you found some information that's helpful. Have a good day.